Everybody, it's your boy Joe, the Wealth Architect. I challenge you to make your first investment, your very first investment this week. So I'm giving you 5 days, right? Still have today. The stock market is still open, right? I'm challenging you to invest $10, $20, $50, $100, whatever it is you feel comfortable with. But get started. Get started today. Don't wait. I'll give you a week. Got to Friday. But I'm saying get started today. You will be so glad that you did, right? So many people put off investing for a number of reasons. Some people think you need a whole lot of money. You need to start, right? You don't need a lot, right? It will grow into a lot as you invest, but you don't need a lot. Get started. I cannot emphasize this enough, right? The days of working for money, as far as I'm concerned, is a wrap, right? I have nothing against work, but what I like more is having my money work for me. And that's what I'm imparting right now. That's what this is about, right? Mindful money is all about having your money work for you. It doesn't get any simpler. And in order for that to happen, you have to invest, not work. You don't work more and put in more hours, give up more of your time so you can get a raise, you can get a bonus, and then the more money you make from working, the more degrees you get, the more letters you get behind your name, and I'm not hating here, I'm just keeping it real. The more of those things you accumulate, guess what? You often work harder, or if not harder, longer for sure, all right? You move up to management, it's more responsibilities, it's not just on you anymore. And while you may be making more money, the government is taxing you more. And chances are your lifestyle is going to go up too. There's a term that they use called lifestyle creep. So that if you go from making 75 grand a year to, let's say with 2-3 years, now you're at 100 grand, chances are you're gonna level up, as they say, right? Or you're gonna tell yourself that you're leveling up. Meaning you're gonna buy a bigger apartment or a more expensive apartment. You're gonna buy another car, right? Or a new car. You're gonna buy more clothes that you really don't need, right? And you're gonna feel like you made it, right? And you went from 75, now you're a 6-figure person. You made it. And yet, you have to, if you're not saving and investing, you have to stay at the job. You have to put in all those hours, away from your family members, away from the things that give you a sense of fulfillment. It could be something as simple as drawing, right? Or crocheting, right? For me, it's travel, right? But whatever floats your boat, as they say, when you're at work, unless you're very lucky, right? And some of us are, when you're at work, you are probably not doing those things that give you fulfillment, right? That's like with most people, right? That's just the truth. Now, there are some people who absolutely love their job, whether it's cooking, whether it's whatever it might be. I get that. But the vast majority of people, that's not the case, right? They work because they got to pay the bills. They work because to maintain a certain image and or lifestyle. They work because they have to pay off student loans, right? Let's be honest, right? But wouldn't it be great if your money that you invested allowed you to do all the things that you want to do, that you desire? You want to travel? Investing can do that. You want to pay off debt? Investing can do that, right? I'm oversimplifying, but it is the truth, right? And by investing, you might be asking, well, what should I invest in? I am not, let me just say that, a certified financial planner. I can tell you what I invest in. I can tell you stocks and companies that I like. But I am not a certified financial planner, right? Now, I personally like growth stocks, right? Meaning these are the big names, right? Like mostly the tech companies. I like other companies as well. But I like the NVIDIAs. I like the AI stocks. I like Google, Amazon, right? And there are others, right? I'm just using those as examples. And those are growth stock because they are huge companies. The ones I mentioned are trillion-dollar companies, most of them, right? So Netflix is not. But they're huge companies. They're growth companies. And so they steadily grow over time, right? And it's not uncommon for them to earn 15, 20, 25, 30, 40% in a year. It's not uncommon, right? Now, of course, they'll have some bad days and stuff like that too. But my main point is that they're growth stock, and the trend tends to go upward in terms of the price of the shares, right? And which means how much money you can make. My main point is that we need to have our money working for us. Right? It doesn't get any more simple. We have to have our money work for us. There is no other way, right? Unless you want to live a life that is focused on struggling, right? And needing and wanting, and we don't want that, right? Nobody wants that. So we need to take this first step, this challenge, and get started today. If you can't invest today, you get paid Friday, right? Take $10. I'm serious, man. Put $10 in a stock, any stock, right? To be honest, any stock. You got $10, right? Which means the most you could lose is $10. But it may go up. It's just your luck, right? If you invest in a company, now that's a risky one. I would advise investing in what they call an index fund, right? I'll get to the company in a minute. But an index fund, which is a basket of stocks or bonds or some type of security, right? It could be commodities. It could be a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, it could be gold, silver. It could be a whole bunch of stuff. But I invest in VOO and other index funds like that. And that's the Vanguard. Vanguard's the name of the company. The Vanguard S&P, which stands for Standard & Poor's. Right? It's a company, right? So Vanguard's a company that houses this investment vehicle called an index fund, right? So Vanguard, gave it a name, Vanguard S&P ETF, Exchange Traded Funds. I'm gonna break this whole thing down for you, right? Hopefully I don't bore you, then I'll get straight into it. So Vanguard's the company. They have a whole bunch of index funds and mutual funds, which is basically baskets of stocks or bonds, some type of securities, right? They give them names. So this one is Vanguard S&P 500, right? Because it's based on this index fund, meaning it is peer to or mirrors. An index is like a mirror. So it mirrors what the 500 largest companies in this country are doing. So if the trend is up, meaning at this day and age, if the tech giants, right, the Facebook, the Google, the NVIDIAs, the Netflix, those big companies, right, if the trend is up, if they're going up, then the S&P, meaning if they're going up because they're so huge in size, right, worth trillions, some of them, that even if, let's say, 450 of the 500 companies go down, let's say, in varying degrees, right? If the top 50 go up and the top 5 or 10 go up in a big way, because they're so huge, they move the average of the entire index, right? So that's how the S&P 500 goes up or down. And on average, the S&P 500 historically in this country for the last 100 years has earned on average about 8 to 10% a year on average. Some years, 2 years ago, it went up to 30%. How do I know? Because it's my job to make sure I know. And my money grew by 30%. That's how I know, right? Because I was invested, right? And so my thing is, you don't want to be on the sidelines. You want to get started. And I'm challenging you to say, don't wait. The longer you wait, the more money you're like giving away, right? Basically, some of us is already giving it away by our spending, right? But when you don't invest it, it's like you're giving it away, not just meaning over the long term, right? Because that means you'll continue to have to work so that you can spend more, right? Because you're not investing. You may be saving, but saving doesn't feel like much because it's not much. It's basically preserving your money. It's not growing your money, right? When we invest, we grow our money. And that's what we want to do. We want to grow our money. Right? And so I challenge you to invest 10, 15, 20, $100, whatever you feel comfortable with, to make your first investment. And in the chat, I want you to say when you invested, right? And how much you invested. When, what, and how much, right? So what day, I don't need the time, but what day, is it today? Will it be tomorrow? Will it be Friday? Right? Put it in the chat what day you invested, what you invested in, right? Again, I'm suggesting VOO, right? Which is an S&P 500 index fund. It's an ETF. ETF stands for Exchange Traded Fund. So it's basically a type of mutual fund that allows you to trade it like a stock, right? Meaning you can sell it or buy it throughout the day, right? Whereas a mutual fund, you can only make a transaction like that one time, right? At the end of the day, at whatever what they call a net asset value. I don't want to get too technical, but whatever the value of the mutual fund share is, I'll just simplify it like that. That's after all the fees and things like that are taken out. So it's the net asset value. You have the total asset or gross asset value, whatever, and then you have the net, right? So with an ETF, you can buy. It's like buying and selling. If you have a Fortune 500 ETF, right? S&P 500 ETF, you essentially have a basket of stocks, all 500 of them, rolled up into one that you can buy and sell like a stock throughout the day, any day, any day that the stock market is open. It's Monday to Friday, except for holidays, right? And so that's what I challenge you to do, to invest $10, $100, whatever you feel comfortable with between now and Friday in VOO. Again, I'm not a certified financial planner. I'm just saying that you can't go wrong, right? I just put some extra money in that very fund. I just did it, right? Just last Friday, right? A nice amount because I believe in the fund, right? And so, let me just get this lighting so it's not in your eyes. So that's what I want you to do. Now, if you want to invest, if you like more risk, I wouldn't suggest it starting out if you're just starting out. But I have individual shares as well in Apple, in Google, in Facebook, in Nvidia, right? Netflix, right? All of these companies, right? Google, right? So now, if you're feeling, as some of the young people say, you're feeling sturdy. If you're feeling sturdy, then you can invest in one of those, and you can put the same amount, right? $10, $50, even if you don't get a full share. If a stock is at $200, but you only have $50, then you can still invest, right? You'll get what they call a fractional share, but you'll still get a share, right? So if it's $200 and you invest $50, you're like, man, no, I want to hold. It doesn't. The whole share, that none of that stuff means anything. The thing is to get started. That $50 will be a quarter of a share, 1/4 of a share. The way it will show up when you invest is as a decimal. So it'll be 0.25, like a quarter, right? Like a quarter, 0.25. So you have 0.25 of a share. If next week you drop another $50, the percentage may change because the share price will change, right? So it may not be $200 a share. It might be $210 a share. So you can still invest, but now you won't be getting a quarter of a share. It won't be 0.25 because the value has gone up. It will be maybe 0.21, let's say, right? Something like that, but still close enough. The point is, get started, right? Now I sound like a broken record, but it really drives me crazy that some of our people just have this idea that they will eventually get around to investing, right? They'll do it at some point, but they never do, right? And as a result, we have to work longer and harder. And as we get older, we want to do the things we want to do. We want to travel. We want to spend time with the people in our lives who we love, right? Who we want to spend time with. Your children, your wife, your husband, your grandchildren, right? I mean, that's what it's about, right? You don't want to be working all your life because you have to. So I challenge you to get started today or no later than Friday in investing. Invest in any one of the ones I mentioned and you'll be okay. I'm invested in all of those and more, right? So you will be okay. Will your money turn over or grow in a week? No. Will it grow it may go up, right? But you're not going to be a millionaire in a year, right? But if you don't do anything, you continue to spend, then I guarantee you will have to work longer, right? Because you're trading your time for money. The name of the game is to flip the script and have your money work for you. That's what investing is about. So tell me what you invest in, when you invest, and how much. I'm just curious. You put $50, say, I dropped 50 in on Apple. I dropped 100 on VOO, right? The Vanguard S&P 500 Index Fund. Thanks for giving me that nudge, right? I just want to push you to say, you can do this. You can do this. I'm telling you, you can do this. I did 25 years. I've been teaching personal finance for 30 of the last 30 years, right? But I did 25 years and have been home 9. And I actually started investing while I was inside, right? So my first investment, I'm going a little off, but I'm just saying my main point is you can do this. I invested $300 from a prison cell in upstate New York. This is no exaggeration. $300. That was a lot of money back then, right? That's probably worth about $3,000 now, right? $300 in an international mutual fund, right? It was called American Century. I still have the stock certificate, American Century. And I invested it and then eventually had to close down my account because the prison said that it was against the rules. So there you go. So much for rehabilitation and preparing people for life on the outside. So they said you can't do that. So I eventually shut it down. But the next year I began teaching, and that was in 1995, and I haven't stopped. I love talking about money and having a money mindset, a growth mindset, right? Having a wealth mindset. I love talking about it. There's nothing that I just love it, right? And I really love when we really begin to rethink how we think about money and our relationship with money, right? So that we're not a slave, so to speak, to money, but instead, money works for us. That's what I'm on a mission to do, to get more and more people to realize that. But anyway, so I invested my money, had to shut it down, and then, began teaching personal finance in 1995 and have taught hundreds, if not thousands, of people over the past 3 decades, right? Mostly in prison. Been home 9 years. First 2 years, I'm being very transparent. The first 2 years, I saved. I didn't jump into investing. I saved, right? And I saved about $20,000. So I was aggressive. Didn't spend a lot, right? Saved about $20,000, and then I started investing, right? And haven't stopped. And over the past 7 years, from work, money going into for a Roth 401k, and then 2 other accounts, all right? I'll just say that. I have amassed 6 figures. My money has grown to 6 figures, right? And the fun is only just beginning. My point in saying all that is that if I can do it after spending half my life in prison, half my life, nothing to be proud of, but if I can do it, and I did it, and I'm doing it, then you can do it. There's no excuse, right? I started, like I said, from prison the first time, right? I had to shut the account down, right? You would think they would encourage that. It's my money. Why shouldn't I be able to open an account? If somebody owns or owes, let's say, childhood arrears or whatever, then they could deduct the money that they earned from the investment. People should be allowed to have a part of the American dream. That is part of the American dream as far as I'm concerned. It's not the job. It's having money work for you so that you can have the lifestyle you want. That's what the American dream is about to me, right? Not working 40 years from 20 to 22 right after college to 65, so 43 years, not doing that, and then hoping that I get to live another 10, 15 years to spend time with the people I love. To me, that's not the American dream, right? There may be somebody else's dream that allows them to make money while you're buying the dream, right? But it's not the American dream, right? And so, at the end of the day, again, I challenge you to get started with investing. And so we could talk about how impactful it will be in your life. If you do, I'm telling you from my own experience that it's a great feeling knowing that you don't have to work for money, right? That your money works for you. And so if you get what I'm saying, say yes in the comments. Yes, I get you, Joe. Because I want to make sure I'm getting through. I'm slowing it down like this so that, you know what I'm saying, to make it as easy as possible, right? To make it as easy as possible to break it down, right? Too often, people complicate things. They overcomplicate things when it comes to money. When it comes to talking about money, people overcomplicate. It's not necessary, right? It's not necessary at all. Let me say this. I'm going to close out and say this. We have a think outside the cell community. If you are looking to really step up your game in terms of learning the ins and outs of the SSI method, spending, saving, investing, getting your credit together, right? multi-generational wealth. If that's where your head is at, that's what you want, that's what you're looking for, that's why you're listening to this, then I want you to go to Think Outside the Cell community. Type that in your search engine, right? Google or whatever, right? So that's Think Outside the Cell community. And it's on a school platform. That's SKOOL, school, right? So you might have to type that too. School, Think Outside the Cell community. But go there, right? Ask to invite, ask for, and make an invitation, and I'll invite you in, right? Because we have to keep the conversation going. I didn't get this overnight, right? I said I've been doing this 30 years, and I'm still learning, right? And that's the beauty of it, because the laws change, right? When it comes to, the consumer price index or this or that, things are always going on. So you always have to stay abreast. So I'm still learning, right? But if you really want to get involved with other justice impacted people, or even if you're not justice impacted, I welcome you to the community. And it's the Think Outside the Cell community. All right? So with that said, I'm going to say, we out. Let's get this money.